All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Thomas O'Neill, and I am going to be talking to you a bit tonight about Peru. We're going to be talking about my wife and I's experiences in Peru, and we are also going to be talking about the upcoming trip that Beautiful Savior is hosting, that my wife Jen and I are leading. We're going to be doing that trip in February, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit as well. And so I'm really excited to share these experiences with you. My wife would have liked to have been here tonight, but she is home with one of our sick children, and so we've decided, hey, I've been on these trips enough. She has to do all the speaking in Peru because she's fluent in Spanish, so I can do all the speaking here when we're in the United States. So we'll get started by I want to kind of tell you a story, and if I can get this to work here. There we go. If you can see up on the screens here, it's a picture of me. That's me when I had more hair, and a little girl named Merali. And she's giving me this great big hug. And I hope you can see in that picture how hard she's hugging me. She's very much holding on tight. And I like this picture because it really shows the relationship that was built, and it really shows the love that exists between the groups that we've led down and the people there in Peru. And so the story I like to tell is the very first time that we went to Peru. We went in a bus. We flew down, got out of the airplane, got on a bus, and we had to travel about 45 minutes south to this town of Chilca. All right, and so come on in. You can do this. We have a whole online crew here, so we have a very minimal crew here. So you're going to know some of these stories, you're going to be in some of these stories, and you're going to know about the trip itself, but there's lots of people online. So I'm telling a story about my very first time down in Peru, and I'm going to be looking at you guys, I'm going to be looking at the camera, so don't be weirded out, okay? First time in Peru, we flew in, got on a bus, 45 minutes south to Chilca, and we pulled down the street, and the way that this neighborhood of Peru is, there's a bunch of like areas, each home has a big walled off area, and their specific orphanage school it's about the size of a football field, but there's a wall all the way around it, and so we pull in through the doors into the courtyard. We don't really see anybody. We get out. Somebody greets us. They bring us into this like cafeteria, dining hall area, and there's all the kids neatly sitting in a square, very polite, all quiet. And so we come in and we're like shaking their hands, and they're very formal, telling us their name, what's our name, kind of back and forth. And then there's like this formal program. It's very nice. And it took like a day to like kind of get used to each other. It felt weird, but we're like, because all of us who went down there were working in the camp world, we're camp counselors, and we're used to like crazy screaming kids and being wacky and things like that, but that was not it. This was formal and quiet and reserved. As we went through the week, they became, normal kids. We became our camp counselor selves. We're hanging out, we're having so much fun. And the end result is this picture here. When we're leaving, people are crying. We're crying because we're leaving these kids, and and these kids are like, oh my gosh, they're leaving, and we've become best friends, right? And so we are very excited about it. And so you get this picture, right? So now I want to talk about the second year that we went down. Same thing, flew down, get on a bus, 45 minutes south to Chilca, turn down the street. As the big doors open into the compound there, and we come into the courtyard, I'm expecting the kids to be in the dining hall. Nope, they are like in the courtyard, bouncing up and down, and like surrounding the bus, and they're so excited. And like my wife and I, we're back again now for the second year, but we had brought a new team down, and so like the kids are hardly even letting our team get off the bus. They're so excited, right? And in the background, I hear Betzabel. She's actually the sister of this little girl here. I hear her yell out, "Nobody hugs hermano Tomas until I do. He's my gringo." Like, that's what she said. She's like 7 at the time, right? And so it was very cute. It was very fun. We get off the bus. They're all hugging. There was none of this reserved, quiet kind of thing. It was all like, they're back, we're so excited, right? And that's the key phrase, they're back, right? Because these kids in the orphanage, they had groups of people come before, but the groups never come back, right? And so up here I write, it's about love, it's about building relationships. And you can't build a relationship unless you keep coming back, right? You can't have a friend unless you talk to them regularly, unless you see each other regularly, right? And so for them, it was so important that we came back. For us, we started to learn, oh my gosh, coming back is important, you know? It's what builds the relationship. So now I want to take you to the third year. Third year, fly down, get on a bus, 45 minutes south. You know, we turn down the street to get to the compound, right? The kids are out in the street just waiting for us. And they see the bus come around the corner. Some of them come running towards the bus, and like the adults are like trying to make sure they're not running out in the street, you know, and things like that. They are so excited to see us that they couldn't even wait inside. They had to wait outside on the street for us. They must have been waiting. I'm like, they didn't really know when we were coming. They must have been waiting out there for a couple hours. Just, when are they coming? When are they coming? When are they coming? And that was very exciting to us. And so to me, that's that moment will stick forever in my mind, because it just shows the progression of the relationship and how excited they were to see us, because they knew what it meant. They knew that here was a group of people that were coming down that loved them, that cared about them, that we weren't there just to like snap pictures of poor kids and make ourselves feel better for a week, right? It was about coming down and building this relationship and having an impact on them, but then fully realizing they were having an impact on us. And so that's what this trip is all about, right? Beautiful Savior's trip now is an extension of these trips that my wife and I took back when I worked at Camp Luther in northern Wisconsin. It's an extension of building upon that relationship that we started, we're talking 17 years ago now. And it is now built up to a point now where, you know, we are a known quantity in this town. And I'll let you know, this town of Chilca, like, they don't get groups, they don't get people. We are the only white people to come down, you know? And so they know who we are, and they know that we're a good group, that we're not there just to exploit, we're not there to just do whatever. We're there to legitimately be part of their community. And so we're going to talk about that, what that looks like here as we go on. So I want to introduce you to the family that's really central to all of this. The mom and dad, their name is Felix and Erika. They're up there. That's a much younger picture of them. The picture there is me and my wife. Again, I have hair in that picture. And it's Felix, Erika, and their three girls, Betzabel, Merely, who was hugging me around the neck, and then their youngest, Carlita. All right? The bigger picture there is my wife with Betzabel, Merely, and Carlita, now 22, 20, and 16 in that picture, right? Betzabel, the one on my wife's right, she's the one who yelled out, "Hey, hermano Tomas, he's my gringo," right? That's her, but now she's not 7 anymore, right? And so the cool thing is we've gotten to see this family grow up. We've gotten to, you know, we met these girls when they were 7, 5, and 1, right? Now we got to know them. We were just down there last weekend, and we're talking, they know English now. We're talking to them about their college studies. Betzabel has had a full-time job now for 2 years. We're talking about much different things than when they were 7 years old, right? And so we have got to see them grow up. They've gotten to see our kids grow up through Facebook, but they've gotten to see our kids grow up, and we've gotten to know Felix and Erika. They've gotten to know us as we've gone through job changes and learning about our lives. And so it's really exciting to be able to continue to build this relationship. Hello, good evening. To catch you up, I'm going to catch you up here really quick. Our trips to Peru all about building relationships and creating, it's about love, it's about relationships, it's about caring. That's what it's about, right? I told this great story about how the kids just come flying out of this orphanage that we used to work at to come and see us as we came in the door, right? Very excited, right? I just introduced Felix and Erika. They used to run the orphanage, and then they have three girls, Betzabel, Merely, and Carlita, okay? And they are very young up in that one picture, and now they are 23, 20, and 16, or 18. So, you know, things have changed, right? We've seen them grow up because my wife and I have been leading these trips for 17 years. And so we've gotten to know them when they were very young, and we're still doing this, and these trips are an extension of what my wife and I started 17 years ago. But now, beautiful Savior, in our mission to go out and share the gospel with others, to do that overseas and to do that in different areas, we are now able to fold those two things into one. So we're very excited about that, right? As we've gone through over the years, our trips have all been about projects and play, okay? I used to bring down a group of college-age students, and it used to be an orphanage. So during the day, half our group would go and do projects, and half of our groups would play soccer, make bracelets, play Uno, do whatever with the kids, right? And then some kid would come, you know, I'd be swinging a hammer, and he'd come like pull on my shirt and say, hey, you want to play soccer? I'm like, okay. And I'd go play soccer and hand the hammer to somebody else who had been playing for a couple hours. I'm like, your turn. And we just kind of do that, right? While we were there, we laid down sod in this play area because they were just starting a school at that point. It was like their first year of starting a school. And the government said you have to have X square feet or meters, because we're in South America, of green grass if you want to have a school, right? So we laid down sod, and I can tell you, because I was just there a week ago, that there is still about 1 square meter left of the grass. So still there. I can say I planted that, right? Very excited. We helped build a swimming pool for them. It gets to be about 110 degrees there in the summer. It's very warm. We have, what else? We knocked down a building. We helped build a bakery on their compound area. We've helped do all sorts of different projects for them. They had an earthquake one year, so we helped them repair walls around the outside. We've done that. But the most important thing we've done is play with the kids. Because this orphanage had like 16 to 20 kids, kind of depending on how many each year. And Felix and Erica did everything they could to be parents, to be teachers, to be role models for these kids, but there's 2 of them, and 16, 18, 20 of these kids, right? And so there's only so much of them that they could give to each kid. And so when we came down, we got to do all sorts of different projects, but we also got to play. We got to just be with the kids. And the kids got to have personal one-on-one attention from an adult, from somebody who cared about them, right? And oh my goodness, the difference that it made with those kids, right? They were so excited about that. One of the coolest things we did is the first year we were there, we went over the New Year's because it's a college group, so that was the best time to go. We left like December 27th and we came back January 3rd or something. So we did a New Year's celebration. And really cool thing, we had piñata and we were dancing and music and things like that. And what we had done is we had each picked a child to go and shop for and to bring some presents down. We set a $25 limit because we didn't want someone spending $100 and somebody spending $15, you know, $25, okay? But we were really intentional. Like, okay, I've got a 7-year-old boy, so I'm gonna get Matchbox cars and this and this, you know, and a t-shirt. It's gonna be great, right? So the kids had no idea, okay? So first, we had also brought down school supplies. So we first brought out a backpack with school supplies because they had this new school that was started right there in the compound, you know? So like, they're so excited about that, right? We brought out cards that people had written from the churches that supported us and people around. They read through those cards. Have you ever read through a card more than like 20 seconds? You know, it's nice card, you know, is there money in here? You know, like that, you know, that's how kids read cards, right? No, they like read it and then they showed their friends, like, hey, look what this person wrote. And they would read, and then, you know, we did the school supplies, that was great. And then we had them close their eyes and we brought out the presents. Oh my goodness, like no one had given them presents like that before. And they opened them and they were showing each other and sharing. One little girl had gotten one of those little candy necklaces, cost about 50 cents, you know, the ones where you bite off the little round things, right? She went around and she would break off and she was giving to each one of her friends because like she wanted to share. The kid who got the Matchbox cars, he grabbed another kid. He's like, let's go. I got 3. Let's go. Let's play. You know, they were so excited. So we came back down the next year and the next year and the next year, and they knew that we were going to do this. And every year was so amazing, and they were so appreciative and so excited. But it continued to build this relationship. It was this we come back, right? In fact, I'll share this story too. Jen and I were back about 4 years ago, and we were down there with a friend, and we were just visiting. We didn't bring a group or anything, and this orphanage had shut down in about 2010, and the school had really become a big thing. And so now the school has like 300 kids who come every day. It's a big deal. It really serves a lot of the poorer community there in Chilca. And so the kids come into school, and I wake up in the morning. We're staying on the grounds there. There's a little apartment thing, and we're staying there. And I come down, and the kids, it's before school, they're playing volleyball and soccer. And so I come out, and I'm like playing volleyball and soccer. And of course, like I just jump in because this is my jam, right? And the kids are all excited about it, but over on the side is like these 16, 17-year-old girls. And I can tell they're talking about me. They're like, you know, like they're whispering, they're looking at me, and they don't know what to make of me because like, here's this weird white dude who just showed up out of nowhere and is playing volleyball. Like, what's going on, right? And so I like wave, and they're having none out of it. They're like, who is this guy, right? And they should be, like, it's weird, right? So then Betsabel, in the picture before this, she walks by, and she sees them talking. She goes up to them, and she talks to them, and later on I found out what she said. The girls were wondering who I was, what I was doing there, right? And they were skeptical because, like, oh, it's this white guy who's going to show up for one day, take some pictures, and leave, right? And Betsabel came up, and she's like, no. Tom's cool. He keeps coming back. Like, and then the girls came over, and we became fast friends over 2 days, and they were all excited, you know, to see us each day that we were there. But like, that's what it took. It just took one person saying, hey, they're cool, they keep coming back. And that's what I want to keep talking about, because we kept coming back, and we kept doing projects. We kept coming back, and we kept playing with the kids. That was the most important thing that we did. And so the fact that we have made, as a congregation, we've made a 3-year commitment to going down to Peru. Now, I'm going to be pushing Pastor Joe to lengthen that commitment a little bit, because Peru is a very special place, has a very special place in my heart, and my wife, who we've been leading it together, she's not here tonight. But we've made this commitment that we're going to come back over a couple of years. We're not just coming down once. We're going to come back over a couple of years so that they know that it's about relationship. It's not just about making us feel good for a day, right? So we've done all those cool projects back when I used to lead it with the camp, but now let's talk about, we actually started this process in 2020, February of 2020. I remember very clearly, Wendy and Wade, you guys sat down next to somebody, the only person on the plane who was wearing a mask. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's that? Like, at that point, coronavirus was like this thing that was maybe happening to a couple people in China, right? And I remember I'm like, come on, like, that mask is a little bit of an overkill, don't you think? But then part of me is like, you two are sitting by the only person who might have COVID. Like, what's going on, right? And then we got back from our trip, and literally like a week later, it exploded. I was like, wow, we came, like, wow. That was maybe an ill-timed trip, I don't know. But we got back safe, great, right? That was supposed to be year one. Well, we basically, had to kind of restart this. So my wife and I flew down to Peru just a week ago to kind of reinvigorate the relationship, because we haven't been down there in 2 years because of COVID. And so we're ready to go again and kind of restart the relationship as far as Beautiful Savior goes, right? But in 2020, we were down there. We were down there with a group of, I think, 10, 12, something like that, with Jen and I. And one of the big projects that we did was, there's this huge need for people who are in wheelchairs to have new wheelchairs. Because I don't know if you can see it up on the picture here. The gentleman on the right, he's got a wheelchair that literally only has 3 wheels. It is rusting out. It's like the seat that he's sitting on is like half what it used to be, and then there's like a sweatshirt that was like tied in there to kind of hold them. Just nuts, right? It reminded me of like those pictures that you see of Chernobyl 30 years later, you know, and these things that are just left out and they've been left out to the elements. That's what their wheelchairs reminded me of, right? And so we spent a full day putting together 53 wheelchairs. And then the next day we had this huge thing at the local hospital clinic, and people from all over came. The news was there, there was some government officials there. It was a big deal, right? And so they would call this name, this person would come up, and we would then help them out of their chair, take this chair, and I don't know what happened, burn pile or something, and put them in this brand new chair. And then they were actually able to move around on their own. It was amazing. Jen and a couple other people who knew Spanish were able to sit and talk with them, and they were so excited, and just to be able to share that blessing with them was amazing. The next day, we were actually walking around downtown Chilca, and we actually saw somebody wheeling around in their brand new wheelchair. And it was really cool to see that something that we did had an impact for that community. And I can tell you, because we've talked with Felix and Erica since, that project had a big impact in the community. Because it wasn't just something, you know, there's so many groups that come down and like, hey, we raise money to paint your walls because that's what we think you need, so we're gonna do that, right? The difference was we came to them and we said, hey, we would like to bless the community of Chilca. We have some money here from the church that the Lord has blessed us with. We're gonna bring it down. What do you need? What would be most helpful? And this time they said, wheelchairs would be the thing that's needed. Okay. I can tell you, we did this way back when Jen and I were leading trips with college students. We came in and we said, hey, we've got some money. What would be the best thing? And one time they said, we're going to fix a pool. One time they said, we're going to build this wall over here. One time they said, you know what, we don't really have any projects. We'll use this money for later. But like right now, the best thing would be to just play with the kids. Okay. That's what they needed, so that's what we were going to do, right? So 2020, the big focus was wheelchairs. It was a really amazing event. We also got to visit a senior center. Just like ours, these seniors don't get out. They don't have either the mobility or the capacity to do so. And so to be able to have people come in, and even though we didn't know Spanish a lot of us didn't know Spanish very well, we were able to sit there and kind of get through a conversation. You've got grandkids? I've got grandkids. You've got grandkids? I am a grandkid. You know, like we got to do those types of things, right? We also got to visit a school with some kids. I got to play chess. You don't need to know how to speak Spanish to play chess, right? I got to do that. A couple others got to do that as well. We had a dance party with them. Very fun, right? We got to be involved in the community in a lot of different ways. And so it was exciting for us to be able to do that, to share that experience. For Jen and I, it was exciting to share that experience with Beautiful Savior, with some people from Beautiful Savior. But it was also exciting for us to introduce a new group, a new partner in Christ with the people of Chilca, right? And so, so that was 2020. Let's go to the next slide. Will it go to my next slide? There we go. So now let's transition a little bit into what our trip is going to look like, because like I said, we are going to be now starting at least a 3-year adventure of going down to Peru and working with the people of Chilca. And so Chilca, Peru, you'll see the big country of Peru. Lima is the star. That's the largest city, about 11 million people, something like that. We traveled just south of that, 45 miles south. It's right on the coast, to a town called Chilca. You can see pictures. They have a beautiful town square with Catholic cathedral, just like every other South American town. It's got one of those. You can kind of see a lot of the buildings, cement and brick construction. That's pretty much every building down there. Nothing pretty, but it is what it is, right? And so we go down there, and I would say Chilca, you know, if I'm thinking of Chilca, Chilca is like the St. Cloud of Minnesota, you know, or, you know, it's just like, it's the other big town that's just near the bigger town, you know? It's where hardworking, blue-collar people, white-collar people, you know, there's people, you know? If you're in Lima, downtown Lima is like super cosmopolitan, like looks like downtown Minneapolis, right? There's some very rich areas there. There is not that in Chilca. Chilca is just normal people, right? And we have gotten to know that community. It's been really cool. Again, we've been down there now like 17 times. It doesn't surprise people anymore when they see me. They're like, oh, yeah, that's you. Hey, yeah, hey, what's up? You know, like they know us. Somebody came up to me the other day and they were like, hey, I was a cook for your group like 10 years ago. I was like, that's awesome, thanks. I don't remember you, I'm sorry, but that's great. And she came up and introduced herself and she remembered us, and that was really neat. And so we get really excited about those connections because now I can sit and talk with her and say, okay, what have you been doing since we last talked, since we last met, you know, and those types of things. And so that's what I hope for this, that as we continue to start bringing down our groups with Beautiful Savior, that next year and the year after, that they'll say, hey, we remember you guys. That's right, you're the Beautiful Savior group. And so, and we in turn will remember the people that we meet because we get to have that really great relationship that we're building with them. Let's see, what else do I have on this? For those of you who don't know, Peru, their primary language is Spanish. All of South America is Spanish, except for, you know, a very large part of it, which is Brazil. They speak Portuguese. But majority of the people in South America speak Spanish. When we go down there, it's their summertime. So December, January, February is their summertime. So we're hitting them. If we go in February, it'll be like their August. And so typically, it says up here 70 to 85 degrees, and that is not true at all. That's what I got off of Google. It's 90, 85, 90. If it's really hot, it can get up, like when we went over in January, it would get up to like 100, 110. But when our last trip there, it was 85, 90 during the day, cooled down a little bit at night. It was not unbearable. It was also not beautiful fall weather like this, right? As far as I'm concerned, Peru is a safe country. I know that Mexico has a lot of problems right now with cartels, drugs, violence, things like that, and that is very much true. There is problems in Venezuela because their government is falling apart as we speak. Colombia, for some reason, is now like the safest country in South America because they've really cracked down on violence and things like that. That's great. Peru is they're just going along, right? They have some corrupt elements of government, but that's more around money and things like that. I feel very safe. I feel very safe sending my wife down to Peru by herself. I just brought my kids down there, and so felt very safe doing that. Plus, when we go down to Chilca, again, we know a lot of the people down in Chilca. Felix and Erica, the family, we trust them implicitly. And so when we go somewhere and Felix gets one of his friends to come with a bus or a car and he says, hey, you guys go on that bus and the rest of you will go with me. Yep, okay. If Felix got somebody, I know that guy's good, right? And I have experienced that 100 times over when I'm down there. And so I feel very safe. I feel very safe bringing a group down there. As far as COVID restrictions, one of the reasons my wife and I went down there was to kind of get a feel for what that looks like. They still technically have a mask mandate for being outside and in public places, but when you're there, you're looking around and maybe half the people are masked. And so it looks to be at this point more of a personal thing, which is fine. They have always been about 6 to 8 months behind us in vaccination status. When I got my first vaccination, they were still 6 months out from getting that. And so they've now all been vaccinated, or Felix, Erica, and their family, a lot of the people they know have been vaccinated. And so their rates have certainly gone down. Peru was harder hit amongst South American countries. I don't know the reasons why, but they were. And so, actually, I don't know. I will hazard a guess. Peru actually has a large Chinese population. They have a lot of industry going back and forth. So I'm wondering if that just maybe had something to do with it, given that a lot of that started in China and Asia and kind of made its way over. I don't know. I'm just drawing lines here. So, but at this point, everyone's doing a lot better. Again, we were walking around, we did not feel like it was overly oppressive or anything like that. So we're talking 5 months from now when we're down in February. I'm feeling like we're going to be pretty good, pretty safe. If people choose to wear masks while they're down there, that's not going to look out of place. And so I think we're going to have a pretty good opportunity to have a trip there. One of the other things I'll mention too is just when we're there, kind of the places that we eat, and you guys experience this, where we eat is like you're in this dining area, but it's all open windows and open doors and a lot of fresh air flying through. Where we stay has open windows and things like that. And so from that perspective, I feel a little bit more comfortable, but everyone will need to make their own decisions on how they feel. So that's kind of that. So when we talk about the trip in particular, I want to start talking about the logistics of this. So we try to go down from a Saturday to a Saturday. It's a full day of travel down there, so we'll leave Minneapolis Saturday morning, usually a layover in Miami or Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, something like that. 5 hours, 6 hours from there, land in Lima. We usually get in around early evening. We will go to a hotel, we will stay at a hotel, and then we'll get picked up. We'll get picked up in the morning and go to the home. I always call it the home because that's what it was back then. Now it's a school, but you're just always going to hear me talk about the home. And so we're going to go to this school, home, compound, village thing, right? Sunday is an acclimation day. We wake up, we go to church. We spend the rest of the day kind of getting to know Felix and Erica and their girls. We had a translator last time, so just kind of getting to know them. A lot of what happens in Peru happens around the table. Food is really important to them. They have wonderful cuisine, big breakfast, big lunch, big dinner, 2 hours at least every time it seems like, right? They love preparing food, they love serving food, they love being hosts and making us happy that way. I'm more than willing to indulge. I love their food. Wendy and I sat and wrote copious notes on how to make some of their dishes. I've tried, I have not been as successful, but coffee. We drink tons of coffee and tons of Coca-Cola, which is different down there. It's delicious. It's great. It's made with cane sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup, so it's way better. But then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is kind of those days that we do projects. For us, last time Monday was the day we built the wheelchairs, and Tuesday was the day that we handed out the wheelchairs, right? And then Wednesday was the day we went down to this town to talk about doing this kind of event there, and we also visited a school. And then the Thursday, we went and visited the senior center and more relationship building, things like that. And then Friday was our sightseeing day. We went into Lima. We went to see some ruins. We went to some downtown area. We went out to a nice dinner, and then all flights back to America leave at midnight. That's what happens. So Friday night at midnight, we jump on a plane, overnight flight. We got back on Saturday, midday, noon, something like that, which then gives everybody half of a Saturday and all of a Sunday to kind of recover a little bit before they have to go back to work. So that's kind of how our trip will look again this year, kind of a Saturday to a Saturday. It might be a Saturday to a Friday if plane tickets are $300 cheaper or something like that, but that's about the time frame that we're going to be looking at. We are looking at somewhere end of January to mid-February, a week in that kind of time frame. They don't want to get us too close to March because that's when they start school, and just like us, they would like to not have company the day before school starts, right? So we are going to try to do a week somewhere in that 3 to 4 week range. Okay, that's what they've articulated to us as would be the best for them, and so we really want to honor that, because I think about this just like if you said, hey, we should do dinner sometime, and I said, great, I'm coming over in 2 weeks from now. And you're like, that doesn't work for me. You know, like if I'm a good guest, I'm going to say, hey, let's do dinner. When would work? You know, and you're going to tell me, well, you know what? Well, how about 3 weeks from now? Perfect. Let's do that. Right. So we really want to honor that and go down when it makes sense for them. So we can talk about costs. This year, like everything has gone up in price, right? Luckily, plane tickets have stayed kind of the same. Since I've been going to Peru starting in 2005, tickets have been about $1,000. Every once in a while, we'll get them for $900. Every once in a while, they'll cost $1,100. I don't understand why that is still the same price, whereas everything else from 2005 is way more expensive. But plane tickets, thankfully, have not gone too far up. They're about $1,000 right now. And so the estimate on the cost is, the way I look at the cost is $1,000 plane ticket and then $500 extra. $500 extra will take care of transportation costs, because it does cost a lot of money to put a group of 12 people. You got to get a bus for 12 people, right? And that can cost some money. And every time you go somewhere, you need that bus. And so every single time it's the cost. It's not cheap to feed 12 people, especially 12 Americans, because we eat more than they do, and they like to host, they like to put their best out there. And so it's not like they're serving lobster or anything, but like it costs money to serve that amount of people. We also use some of that money for the project costs that we do. And so, you know, we did 53 wheelchairs. It cost about $50 per wheelchair to actually purchase those and then to put them together. And so there are costs that come with the trip. They also pay for a translator, because my wife speaks Spanish, and that's great. They have a daughter who speaks Spanish, but she can't be there the whole time. She's got to work. And even if she was there the whole time, 2 people is not enough. You need more translators than that. So they hired in a translator. They also hire in somebody to work in the kitchen to prepare meals, because while we're all out gallivanting around handing out wheelchairs, you know, Felix and Erica are with us because they're part of the community and they're the ones who introduce us to people and things like that. Well, then we get home and we're all like, hey, we're hungry. Well, Erica's not going to jump in the kitchen and quick whip something up for 12 people, right? Like, so they've hired people to work in the kitchen and stuff and help in that way. And so when we look at the cost, it's about a $500 cost plus whatever your plane ticket is. And so I estimate that right now that'll be about $1,500. That could vary a little bit. If we get $900 tickets, great. Cost is $1,400. So that's about what we're looking at. We stay right at the home. And the reason we do that is because it makes all the difference in the world. Going back to my very first story of when we stayed at the orphanage, all the kids like moved into one place so that we could all stay in kind of their dormitory on their bunk beds and things like that. It meant the world to them, because they'd had groups come before and they'd be like, oh no, we're gonna go to the hotel and stay. And they would bring their own food because, like, heaven forbid they eat their rice and chicken, you know? And they're like, no, we're gonna be comfortable with our peanut butter and jellies and things like that. And how would you like it? Let's go back to the example. If I came to your house and you made a fantastic dinner, I'd be like, no, that's all right, I brought my own. Because I don't know if I'm gonna like it, you know? Rude. But it also meant a lot that we actually stayed, and that each time we came down, like, we were willing to do that, because honestly, it's not that bad. We just stayed there. They have a nice little apartment kind of thing. Now, we're not all going to get to stay there, but when we come, we all stay down, and they're classrooms that have bathrooms attached to them, because they used to be dormitories when it was the orphanage. But they put mattresses down on the ground for us. It was fine, right? Like, it's glorified camping, in my opinion, right? Got a roof over our head, and we have the most amazing meals possible served to us every day. You'll see a wonderful dish there. It's called lomo saltado. It's rice, it's got a French fries, and then it's got like a beef, onion, pepper, tomato, and like this really great sauce. It's fantastic. It's my favorite meal when we're down there. It's kind of like their national dish. It's the hamburger of Peru. But like, they serve us amazing meals. You're not gonna go hungry for sure. They eat a lot of rice, meat, and it's a lot of chicken, duck, some beef, some pork. They do vegetables, a lot of potatoes. Peru, fun fact, has like 3,000 different kinds of potatoes. I'm not kidding, 3,000. It's nuts. If you asked me how many different kinds of potatoes exist in the entire world, I would have said no less than like maybe 7, 10 tops. Purple, gold, russet potatoes, and red. There's 4 and maybe 3 or 4 I don't know that exist. But nope, 3,000. The projects that we're gonna do, right now we have a really interesting scenario happening. Felix, who used to run the orphanage, helps with the school. He is kind of a regional social worker, is his daytime job. He is running for mayor of Chilca. Chilca is about 30,000 people. If he wins, which he is right now the front runner, he was also the front runner 3 years ago, and corrupt government, people paid off, one of the candidates paid off a bunch of people and he won the election magically. But if he does win, which we think he will have access to a huge amount of funding from the state that he will then be able to pour into the community for projects that he's been wanting to do that corrupt government has not been willing to do. And so that would really mean a lot for us because we could come down and really like jump into a lot of really amazing projects. If he doesn't win, that's okay. We have plenty of backup plans. One, there is still, we got 53 wheelchairs. There's 100 more people need wheelchairs, more than that. So we might do another wheelchair event. We might do a optical glasses kind of event as well. That's been talked about. We're gonna go visit some senior homes again. I'm really excited this year. I'm on the board of an organization called NPH, which supports orphanages down in South America, because again, that's my jam, that's why I'm standing here now. They have a home down just south of Peru, actually in that town where we went out to that lunch with the super mayor. We were like blocks from this home. We're gonna spend an entire day down at that orphanage, playing with the kids and helping them out in whatever way we can. It was really cool when we were down there just a couple weeks ago, or a week and a half ago. I asked Felix, I said, hey, could we go and do this? Are you familiar with this home? He's like, oh yeah, I was just there doing a project like 2 months ago. As we were talking, he dialed up the executive director, had a phone conversation, set it up, we're good to go. Like, I was really excited about that. So we're gonna get to go visit this orphanage and play with kids and have a lot of fun. So that's gonna be one of the other projects that we do. So there's gonna be no shortage of things that we're gonna be able to do that will impact the community and that will enable us to like really get one-on-one with people and help them. It's not just gonna be like, hey, we're gonna go over here and paint this wall and we don't interact with anybody. It's gonna be interaction with people. And that's the good stuff right there, right? Wade, when you and I are like lifting a dude out of his chair, that's about as personal as you can get, right? And then putting him in the new chair, seeing the tears, having Jen kind of translate what it means to him. Holy cow, that's amazing, right? Impacted them, impacts us. Activities. We do a lot of fun activities. We're gonna go visit the ocean. Beautiful overlook, little hike up a little mountain, overlooking the ocean. We're gonna go to the beach. We're gonna play games with some of the Felix and Erica's girls. They love the game Spoons. I don't know if you're familiar. Cards, and you grab the spoons. Love that game. Wendy, it was your birthday last time we were down there. We had a huge birthday celebration. They love celebrations and parties. So we celebrated. We had cake. We had special treats. It was awesome. We played games. There'll be dancing, I'm sure. And then, like I said, there's gonna be some sightseeing and some ability to pick up some gifts and things like that. So you're gonna get to do a little bit of sightseeing as well. We're not just gonna squirrel you away and, it's the airport and Chilca and that's it, right? And Chilca has some very beautiful scenery. You're just right on the coast there. So that's what the trip is gonna look like. At this point, I got one more slide that I want to talk about that's something extra, but before I get there, any questions about the trip? Logistics, anything?
So you were for sure going February?
Short of a huge outbreak, the question was, we're for sure going in February, right? My answer to that is short of a colossal outbreak of COVID or something new, who knows, yes, we are going down. Other questions? If you're online watching us now, feel free to email me. My email is Thomas O'Neill, that's Thomas spelled like normal, O'Neill, Oneill, 47@gmail.com. You can email me with questions, and then we'll get a phone call conversation going or something like that. Talk to me at church over the next couple weeks, or we can do a phone call or something like that. If you have questions about the trip, we would love to have you on the trip. We'll probably be making decisions here over the next month, I would say. I would say October 15th is when we'll kind of say, okay, I need to know who's coming along by October 15th. We'll do one more slide here. If it'll go. Many of you might know one of the 7 wonders of the world is Machu Picchu. It is in Peru. It is not anywhere near Chilca. You have to fly from Lima. You have to fly from Lima to Cusco. That is about a 45-minute flight. You then have to take a 4-hour train ride up to a little town just at the base of that mountain that you see, and then a 25-minute bus trip up there. It's about a 4-day adventure, all told, to do that. I have been there a number of times. It is absolutely beautiful. It's everything you could possibly imagine it would be. It's really great. I highly recommend it as a trip. It is an extra thing that you would do on your own. I will not be joining on that trip, but last time in 2020 we had a group of, I think, 5 who decided to go and do the trip, and I set them up. I told them where to stay, how to get the tickets. We pre-ordered all the tickets. We got everything figured out. I pretty much gave them a step-by-step itinerary how to do it. It pretty much worked that way. It's a pretty easy, when my wife and I first went there was maybe 500 people all told in this whole area there. We were one of a few Americans when I last went, and when I heard about the last trip.
All right, everybody, can you hear my voice at all? Hey.
Whoa. There's another.
Can anyone hear my voice? Not really. I'm going to try to talk loudly and see what I can do here volume-wise.
We have Amy, our youth leader, using a mic, and it's like going on our stuff too here. So, what time do we have? 10 to 7. I still got 10 minutes. 10 minutes. So that trip, I don't know what the pricing is. When we did this in 2020, it was about $1,000 extra between that extra flight, the train, the bus ticket, the entry fee, and the 2 or 3 nights of hotels. Everything's pretty cheap in Peru, like a decent hotel, which is not the same as our hotels, but a decent hotel, it's like $35, right? A meal is $4. It's pretty cheap, and that stuff still is. But I don't know how much the train tickets are, things. I'm assuming that's gone up a little bit. So between $1,000 and $1,200, I will say it's absolutely worth it. If you're going to be that close to Machu Picchu and you've never seen it and you have the ability to do it, you should. The other thing I should say too is right now you are still able to walk down amongst the ruins, which is amazing. The first 100 people get to climb up to the top of that mountain. I've done it. It's amazing. Great views. It's not as bad as it looks. It's a 45-minute kind of climb up to the top. There is plans in the works because so many people, I told you the first time I saw it, there's 500 people. In 2020, there was 5,000 people, and they do 2 different groups of 5,000. They put so many people through. You put that many people through walking around, it's starting to degrade the site. And so there's going to be a creation of a tram up to the top, a big observation deck, and that's it. It's going to be more Grand Canyon looking, look at the Grand Canyon, but don't go in it kind of thing, right? So honestly, there's only several more years. The last I heard, 2025 was the year that they wanted to kind of have that project done. So I would suggest doing it. If it's something you want to do, it's not it's a complete extra. Our group will go to the airport on that Friday night and fly out Friday at midnight, and we'll just leave. Whoever wants to go, you'll stay at a hotel that night. You'll get up in the morning, you'll take an Uber or in a taxi to the airport, you'll fly to Cusco, and you'll do that. It's fairly easy. And so, but like I said, for anybody who wants to do that, I will certainly help you plan that out, but I won't be going myself. That's it. That's Peru. I'll leave you with one last story. Also, I don't know, I have a million favorite stories, so I could stay up here all night. But the very first trip we went on, we're there for a week. I talked about how excited the kids were and things like that. We had built this relationship with the kids. We had spent so much time. And the night before, our group leader, I wasn't the group leader the first year. First year we had a woman named Grace, and she got us all together, and she said, look, tomorrow's going to be a really hard day. Because you guys get to go back to you get to get on an airplane, 1. You get to go back to America, 2. You get to go back to your comfortable home and your comfortable bed and a hot shower and your flat screen TVs and food in the fridge and parents and aunts and uncles and grandparents and siblings and things like that and friends that you are surrounded with. These kids don't have that, and you're going to realize that, and it's going to be very hard to leave these children tomorrow. We said, okay. And sure enough, it was very, very, very hard. For those of you who are watching, the picture in the very front is that girl just squeezing as tight as she can around my neck. What that picture is back of my head. What you can't see is me bawling, right? At this point, I'm a 25-year-old guy. I do not cry, right? I'm bawling. The kids are bawling. We do not want to leave, right? So fast forward 7 years or so, one of my last trips that I led college students down. And I had these 4 guys. They were bros. They were like the coolest of the cool, right? They all, I gave them the same speech, right? I said, guys, tomorrow's going to be really tough. Just trust me, all right? So just prepare yourselves. And they're like, Tom, come on. We're not going to cry. Okay, So come the next day, we're all saying our goodbyes. I'm crying again, even though I know I'm coming back. I'm leading next year's trip. I'm all bought in at this point. I know I'm coming back, and I'm still crying. Jen's crying, the kids are crying, things like that. We get on the bus, the kids are waving, some of them are like chasing us down the street. And I look in the back of the bus, and there's these 4 guys. They all got sunglasses on, and they all got their hats pulled down real low. And they're not just crying, they're blubbering crying, And I just give them this look, and it's not like a, ha ha ha, I told you so. It was just like, I told you, It's hard. It's hard to leave, especially when it's so weird to think that you build such a strong relationship within such a short amount of time. But that's what kind of happens on these trips. And I truly believe it's the Lord working in us to loosen some of those things in our heart, to open our hearts to just to other people. Because when I think about these people, yes, they might have less than us in certain ways. But man, the first time we went down there, we thought we were going to be sharing the gospel with them for the first time. It turns out they have a way stronger faith than us. Or at least strong. It felt like they were stronger than my faith, right? They have a love for a Lord that I can't even explain. They have such strong family connections, and the people of their community is so strong. And then when we're down there talking with the girls, we're talking about regular stuff. We're talking about the same shows that we watch on Netflix. They go shopping just like we do. They have a mutual distaste for McDonald's the same as I do. We talk about that, and we realize we're the same. We just have very different living experiences, right? And so once we understand that these are God's people, God made them just like us, that they have the same troubles, the same joys, the same challenges that we do, that just opens up this opportunity to be in relationship with them. And that's what I'll go back to. This is all about building relationship. It's all about creating this community between us and the people there, between our church and the people of Chilka, our church and the school, whatever it happens to be. And so I'd invite everybody who's watching online, invite you guys to join us coming up. So we're looking forward to it. If you want, I can get your contact information, and then we can go from there, and I can keep you updated as we go over the next couple weeks. That's it. Thanks, everybody. Shore